Yes, everyone, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the Irish Hotspur, joined by Dave. It's season prediction time, everybody. We're coming off a very hectic week. Wish we could have done these season predictions sooner, but we're delivering them to you now, recording them right before the season gets started, so we don't do any cheating, no sort of hindsight type predictions. We're putting them out there for you. So everybody, if you could do us a favor before we release them to you, smash that like button for us, and as well, leave your comments down below for each of these categories that we go through. Get your predictions in so Dave and I can read them back and take a look at which ones maybe we can hold ourselves, in comparison with which ones maybe will end up being some big howlers. Do let us know, everybody. But let's get started here, Dave. Let's start with where Ange will actually finish this season, and can he actually finish the season? And we both have said yes. Is he going to have a smooth sail? Is it going to go well for him? How's the season going to go? I think just finishing the season is good. That's better than most other managers in the past. So that would already be a success of some kind.
Well, look, Jack, we haven't had a manager in the dugout for a full season since Mauricio Pochettino. We cannot continue on like that. I've spoken before about the dangers of chopping and changing managers constantly the way we are. Only relegation teams act like that, where they panic and they pull the trigger. At some point, Daniel Levy has to understand that he's not giving all these managers absolutely everything they need in one window, and that it's going to take time. Our best managers were given time. Harry Redknapp, Pochettino, time to build something. And for me, okay, this season, I don't think we're going to hit the heights that maybe some people think we will. But for me, it's about sort of stabilising us and building on it from there. And I think Ange Postecoglou, the fact that he signed a 4-year contract, I think this guy will be given time, and especially by the fans, right? We understand that Harry Kane is gone, our best ever player. And, Ange Postecoglou, many fans look at him as more of a rebuild manager than what they did with Conte and Jose Mourinho, where they were win here now managers and they wouldn't accept anything less, where I think fans now accept that we are where we are. This is going to take a bit of time. We are going to have to rebuild, and on that basis, I think he'll be given more time by the Spurs fan base than previous managers, and I think he will last the full season in the dugout. I hope he does. I like Ange.
If the club were smart, they would not sack this man, and they would give him time. This club has had far too much change, far too much sort of turnover. What they need is stability, and Ange is willing to be that sense of stability, to be that symbol of it. So let's allow him to do it. Let's see where Spurs will finish, though. And Dave, this, by the way, is a bit of a typo. That's on me here, everybody. He has gone for actually not as much of a happy, clappy finish as you might have thought. It's actually a bit further down the table, so might as well just put you on the fire here. You've gone actually for not 5th, Dave. Tell us what you actually think.
Yeah, I wonder how many people clicked off saying, "Oh, same old delusional Dave," when they seen 5th. Don't be alarmed. That was a decision made when we had Harry Kane here. Now that he's gone, I do feel we're going to feel the impact of his goals, especially in the tight games, the winners and the equalisers that he's got us down the years that many people seem to sort of dismiss. I think that's the games where we're going to miss his goals most. But also, the defensive frailties are still there. And I think, they might even come home to roost even more in the Premier League, where it's more intense than what pre-season is. You'll be impressed more. Teams go into it with more of a game plan, more intensity. So, look, for me, I think we're going to finish 10th, Jacko. That's my season prediction. If you want me to be brutally honest, I think against the teams below us, we'll smack. I think against the teams above us, I think we'll struggle.
If we had European football this season to deal with, I think Ange would be struggling with the fixture congestion. But the fact that he has a week for the most part to prepare between each game, or has around 4 days on average usually to prepare for each game, I think we're not going to concede nearly as many because of that. He gets more time to try to fix the defense, more time to work with his players, to try to fix some of the patterns, to sort of maybe fix whatever tweaks or issues that might be needed. But also, too, I think you sort of think every big game that we go into, having this extra bit of time to work for it, you feel like we might have a better chance of picking up some of the points that we had dropped in seasons past to kind of the Man Uniteds, to some of the bigger clubs, in the top 5 and kind of the top 6 sort of region. I do feel like there could be some big wins that we might pick up against some of the other big teams because we have more time to prepare against them than maybe they do against us. That being said, there's going to be some bumps in this road. There are going to be some hiccups. There are going to be moments where we're going to be flying high, where we're going to be happy clapping to our heart's content. And then there are going to be some moments where I feel like we're going to run out of ideas. We're just going to look like we're sort of struggling to kind of get the gears going again. We might have some little blips, but I think that's all part of a first season with a guy who's never been in the Premier League. I think that's all part of also, too, having so many new players that are kind of stepping into new roles in this club as well. And that's all kind of comes with it. It's just hiccups. And as well, though, there's plenty of high moments, but some low moments too. When you describe a season that way, that sounds like kind of a sixth place finish to me when you usually describe a finish or a season in that sort of manner. But yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, 100%, Jack. And look, I hope I'm proven wrong. Maybe it's just the way I'm feeling right now. But look, as soon as the first whistle goes tomorrow, you know, that's someone put it brilliantly underneath the comments. That's when the healing process starts, and that's when we'll sort of truly know. So, look, I hope I'm proven wrong. I just like you said, I fear bumps in the road. Yours, you think we'll get a few more
smaller
points
bumps.
than I do. Look, let's wait and see what happens. I hope we're more on your end of the prediction than mine, though, Jacko.
Maybe some smaller bumps in my case, that's for sure.
Yeah. Mine's more mountains.
More mountains. FA Cup, though, Dave, it sounds like that's not a mountain that we're going to climb. Quarterfinals as far as we're going to go in your mind. And why is that? Is it because the FA Cup is just a slippery one? Is it because you can get matched up against a big team? Why is it only quarterfinals?
Yeah, look, with the FA Cup, Jack, I think it takes place later in the season where there's not as much fixture congestion. You usually go from February to the end of the season. There's no really midweek games unless it's sort of Champions League or Europa League and stuff like that. Whereas with the Carabao Cup games, they are midweek games. Whereas with the FA Cup, you get weekends off to play the FA Cup because of the prestige of the competition. So for me, that's why you usually see one of the big dogs end up winning it out. And I think the quarterfinals, I think, is what I've gone with. And for me, because the reason why I've gone there is because I think in and around the quarterfinals, you're still going to have a lot of the big teams left, and I think that's where we might find ourselves undone. And the clubs seem to go more for the FA Cup than they do with the Carabao Cup, so that's maybe my reasoning behind it. And it's nothing to do with Ange not wanting to give it a crack. You know, many people say to me, now that Kane's gone, Dave, back Ange. So I've started backing Ange before most people did. Paul was the only one that, was out on the Ange Postecoglou train before me. I watched Ange Postecoglou for 2 years at Celtic. I've seen more of Ange than absolutely anybody. He is going to target these cups. But I just think the difference when you come up against the likes of a Liverpool, a City, United, a Chelsea, who are always in and around the quarterfinals, is having that big game striker, and I think that might come back to haunt us.
Yeah, it's tougher than it looks. It often is, and so we'll see how Ange can handle it. Semifinals for me, not much to it other than I just feel like he has more time to prepare than maybe other clubs do. But Dave brought a very good point there with kind of the reserved weekends for the FA Cup, and I didn't think about that. And also, too, once you reach the quarterfinals, he's right. You start to come up against bigger teams. So that would mean for us to reach the semifinals, we would have to beat a pretty significant side of some sort. But let's go into the League Cup, and we're definitely much happier about this sort of a competition. We're both going for a final appearance. And maybe take it away again, Dave. Why is it that, the FA Cup is going to be more difficult for us than actually the League Cup?
Yeah, look, Jack, for me, I think with the League Cup, right, it happens earlier on in the season where there's a lot more sort of fixture congestion. And I think that's something that Spurs can actually benefit on, because I think when you've got, even if you get drawn against a Chelsea, Pochettino, he doesn't really like to target them sort of cups, so you might be able to do them there. When you come up against the Liverpool, the City, or that, they're going to have Europe to focus on them, so they might end up dropping a few sort of players and resting a few players, and we might be able to do them there with the style of football we play. But also, when you look at our last Carabao Cup run to the final, we got a bye. We bet a shit Chelsea team on penalties, and then we bet Stoke, we bet Brentford. All of a sudden, we're in a final against Man City. So for me, I think your run to a Carabao Cup final is traditionally and usually a lot easier. And you do see a lot of Premier League teams, especially in the early rounds, sort of go out of the Carabao Cup to the smaller teams, to the teams in Championship, League One, League Two. And on that basis, I think we could actually sneak a run to the final. It's not impossible. We snuck a run to the semi-final under Conte in his first season, eventually undone by Chelsea over the 2 legs due to them having superior quality. But I do believe, we can get to a Carabao Cup final because we'll have our eyes on it, whereas I don't think too many other clubs will, Jacko.
That's true. And also the League Cup isn't taken all that seriously. It feels like it only really starts to get taken more seriously once you have maybe the chance to reach a final. And I feel like Spurs will probably be taking it more seriously than the rest of kind of the bigger sides. And that then means we could have a better chance of sort of coming into it more prepared, more kind of in the right sort of mental space to really go after it. And it is also fewer games. It sort of happens in a much more congested period, kind of back to back to back. And then there's that huge delay until the actual final. So it just seems like it is sort of a Spurs type competition for us to maybe sneak in there. So I'm with you there, Dave. And let's hope that at least Postecoglou can have some competition of some sort that he can really push for. But which team is he going to be given a spanking to this season? This one is more for out of hope than really out of realism on my end. I just feel like I don't really have like a huge hate towards Newcastle or anything like that. But after last season, we just need to owe them one. We need to give them something back in return. The way that Isak celebrated it against us, all the other celebrations, they really still kind of paint a bit of a bad picture in my head. Also, too, the way the players all gave up, the game that also Hugo Lloris even gave up, I think, on the club and the rest of the team, too. Just not a good day for Tottenham Hotspur. And I just think that we have to, in some way, pay back the fans with a bit of a spanking to Newcastle. It can be home or away. I'm not asking for much, but I think in some sort of manner, we need to give them one after what happened last season. I hope Postecoglou is able to remind them that of some sort, like you maybe have told me, Dave, that he needs to. He needs to kind of tell them about what they need to owe to the fans after what happened last season. But this one's for more out of hope than really out of realism. I think, Dave, yours is more if you were to put a real fiver on this type of question. Yours is a pretty good bet.
Look, Jack, I wouldn't say yours is impossible. I've seen teams being done before, and being able to turn it around dramatically. I remember, what was it, Barcelona against PSG? They got spanked, took them home, and absolutely ripped them apart and spanked them. Football does have storylines like that. Look, you're right, Jack. Last season, that game brought back nightmares. And look, I think we'll all agree. It was the game where everyone had given up. Fans, owners, managers, players, pundits, media, everyone gave up on Tottenham. It signaled the end of our season. I would argue, and me and you would argue, that our signal sort of, our flames fanned out as soon as we went out to Wolves, what was it, the Cup game followed by the AC Milan game. That's when we signaled our season was over. But look, Jack, I agree with you. I'd love to turn Newcastle over. I've gone for someone like Luton because I think we get them at home. I think with the way we play, we'll have them pinned back for large periods. It'll be attack after attack, and all you need is a couple of players to be on form, and I think that's why I've gone for a 5-0 against Luton. But believe me, I would trade that all day long for your 4-0 against the Geordies.
Me too. But let's talk about who's going to grab us the worldie, the one that's going to make us, the one that's going to make Dave maybe have a stiffy in the morning. And it's going to be Solomon for you, Dave, not Sonny. I think it's Sonny almost every season. I feel like he often has a few to choose from in order to put up, for contention. Even when he doesn't win it, it feels like he's going to get second or third usually with his goal. So he's a tough guy to beat because he usually pulls off a couple of worldies. But Solomon, I know you have a lot of confidence in him, so it's going to take a real worldie out of his case to pull it off. But you think he can do it?
Do you know what, Jack? Just quickly on Sonny, I think that's one thing that's not really spoken about enough with him. It's the amount of spectacular goals he scored. And it's a very good point you raised there, that every season he's up for the award and there's 4 or 5 to pick from. It's not like it's just one and done. There's 4 or 5. But look, with Solomon, Jack, I think with Sonny, if Richarlison doesn't hit the ground running, I think Sonny eventually be used down the middle to go and get us them goals that maybe we need in them moments.
And that takes away from scoring spectacular goals, you think, playing more down the middle?
Yeah, well, a lot of his spectacular goals, they're sort of coming in from the left-hand side, sort of swinging, curling one in. Bar that one against Burnley, he's definitely capable of something like that straight throughout the middle if he's playing down the middle for sure. But I do think Solomon, when I look at him, Jack, this guy is capable of the spectacular. He's very much like Sonny. He likes to cut in, gets his curling shot offs, Jack. And for me, I predict, I like him. I think he's a big game player. He turns up for Shakhtar in the big games. He did against Real Madrid and both legs. And for me, I don't know why, I have a sneaky feeling we're going to see an absolute belter from this guy this season. I would have gone for Sonny, but like I said, I think he's going to go through the middle. And I'm thinking what else, and I just looked. Solomon kept on popping out to me in capital letters, and I just got to go with it, Jacko.
Is he going to be like
capable of it?
Like a 40-yard run, like a screamer from distance? What type of goal?
Screamer from distance. I can feel it now, Jacko. 35, 40 yards, a dipping one straight into the top corner, lad. A rocket. I can feel it.
If it were to be Solomon, I could see it some sort of counterattack of some type where he just ends up taking it past 2, 3, 4 players and then just sort of tucks it away one-on-one, you know, with the keeper. I could see him doing that. But he scored some big goals in the past, like you brought up before. That's for sure. How many clean sheets is our man Vicario going to get compared to Hugo last season? I think he's going to get more than what Hugo and Forster had. He is going to have a better season, in my opinion, too, than what Hugo had. I don't think that's going to be very hard. I feel like what Vicario does have to do, though, is maybe just limit some of the bad goals that we conceded last season from, you know, Hugo, that were just really basic saves. Like, I think Vicario is not going to concede nearly as many goals from just giving it away in possession. I think he's actually going to help us out tremendously in possession and actually make us, you know, a bit harder to press. But it is going to come down to some of the big one-on-one saves, some of the big sort of panic saves that you have to make as a keeper. And I think Hugo Lloris let us down on a number of occasions last season when it came to the Newcastle and the Callum Wilson situation. You look at Aston Villa from Douglas Luiz's long shot, Man City, Arsenal, some big games that Hugo let us down in. Vicario can't do that. And I have confidence that he won't, but a lot of people might not. So it's going to be an interesting one for him. And I do think 13 clean sheets is actually not even all that impressive. That probably would have him finish around like 6th or 7th, I think, amongst, you know, the top keepers. So it's not even that big of a number. It's more kind of a, how would you put it, a mediocre type finish if 13.
Do you know what, Jack? And you said something to me before we started this as well. With Hugo Lloris, we were conceding from sort of everywhere, all aspects of his games, right? Whether it was balls into his box that he should be commanding, whether it was him kicking with his feet, whether it was one-on-ones, you know, all aspects of his games we were conceding goals to. I don't think that's going to be the case with Vicario. Don't get me wrong. There's some things I've seen that gives me a little bit of concerns. But you also made a good point to me that, you know, every goalkeeper takes a little bit of time to settle into the Premier League. And once they settle in, they'll be fine. But also, not only that, you got to remember, it's also got to be about the back line in front of that goalkeeper. It's not all about the quality of the goalkeeper. That back line has to be able to learn with things. You know, we've seen pre-season Pedro Porro and Reguilon not being able to deal with balls towards the back post. We've seen with our centre-backs just being ripped apart. But I do feel Romero's going to have a big season this year, and I do think if you can get Van der Ven going beside him, with his pace, he might get us out of a few problems that we found ourselves in last season, and I think all that will sort of contribute to a few more clean sheets than what we had last year, Jacko.
Keep it tight in the back for us, Vicky. Come on, my man.
Venom. Show that venom.
Flop of the season. I'm going to go first here. Pedro Porro is somebody I really love, somebody I really want to be proven wrong on this one, but I decided to go for a spicy one and kind of pick one of my favorite players in the team and end up questioning whether he can actually do it this season. And it's more due to maybe Ange, you know, whether Ange can actually see him in the right position, because I don't see Pedro Porro as a fullback. I think he's getting caught out defensively a bit too often for my liking to really comfortably play him there most games in a back four. I think he's getting caught out on a few things. He's getting caught out on one-on-one, you know, kind of moments where he just gets skinned kind of easily. And then two, it feels like he's guilty of ball watching, where I think he's trying the right things. Like he's intent, he's focused, but he doesn't seem to have that surrounding or that sort of like, you know, knowing and that knowing of what's behind you or what's happening around you. Is there a guy making a run diagonally across you? Is there somebody that's sort of leaning on your shoulder that maybe is that you don't see, that's, you know, kind of on the back of your head type situation? And it's a very difficult skill as a defender, but it's important to have in this Premier League because of how these wingers make their intricate runs, how they sort of choose their moments to try to run in behind you. And Pedro Porro just gets caught out, I think, far too often, whether it be, you know, a ball over the top or sort of, you know, a pass between the lines, or it could actually be a cross into the box. He seems to get caught out a little bit too often too. So for somebody that's, I think, a bit small, maybe not the best in the one-on-one situations, and is a bit of a ball watcher, I don't have much confidence in him as a fullback. What I do have confidence in him, though, is as a winger. Then again, though, I feel like if he's also playing as a fullback, he's not going to be used as sort of, you know, a guy in the wide areas. He's going to have to play in field. He's not going to get his strengths, you know, for his ability to whip in those delicious crosses. I'm worried. I think his whole season depends on Ange seeing him as a winger. If he is seen as a right winger, I think he'll actually thrive in this system. And I think he'd give Kulusevski a good run for his money with how good he is at finishing, with how good he is at putting in some delicious crosses for guys like Richarlison or Sonny if they were playing in that striker's role. But it's just all dependent on whether he plays at right wing. I just don't think he has a shot in any other position in this team.
Do you know what, Jack? I think you make some great points about Porro, and you know you've gone from Porro's #1 fan to jailhouse Jacko now. You know, I'm not sure Porro be too happy with you, Jacko. He's going to put you in solitary confinement in Porro's penitentiary. But look, when it comes to Porro, I think I fully agree with you. I think you raised some great points. However, when I look at Emerson took some time to adjust coming from the Spanish league where it's a lot more slower. True. The intensity isn't there. They don't get as pressed as much, and it took them time to adapt. I think someone like Porro is also going to suffer the same fate from the Portuguese league, where he playing with the best team. He didn't have to do a lot defensively. It was all about how good he was on the ball. And for me, I think, you know, he is going to learn. I think he will get better. For me, I'm giving him a bit of time defensively. I think he will improve. But, you know, we can't be naive to what's in front of us, and what you pointed out is there. But my flop of the season, Jack, I've just gone with the guy who's flopped every single season since we've signed him, and that's
without fail
the one and only Moonhead Eric Dyer. The fact that he's lasted at this club longer than Harry Kane, I've actually warned about. There's plenty of occasions on my rants that if we don't start getting these guys out, this is the situation we're going to find ourselves in. We're here. I did see today that apparently he took Tottenham off all social medias. Hopefully, you know, that's hopefully he's going somewhere. Hopefully it actually means something. And he wasn't just supposed to change it to captain, but ended up deleting everything. But look, flop of the season, it's obvious who it's going to be. It's always him. He always lets me down, makes big mistakes in the biggest moments. Get him gone. He shouldn't be here.
If you can count on Sonny getting goal of the season, you can certainly count on Moonhead being a candidate for flop of the season. Richarlison, though, I've gone for the most improved player, and it's really not. I think it's almost like we both gone for obvious answers here. I think in this case, I think in Richarlison, it's just, can he improve on his consistency? I've said this in the past that I think in certain games he can be absolutely on fire, and then in other games he can be completely useless and look hopeless as a player. And that's where I sort of think, like, is it really always his technical ability? Is it really always, you know, his own actual skill? I think it's more just the mental with him. I think it's more just about being consistent. And when it comes with consistency, it's sort of preparing the same way for each game, going into the game, the same type of mentality with the same sort of preparation. And I'm not saying Richarlison doesn't do that, but in some way he needs to fix this consistency issue. He also needs to fix his own kind of fitness, where he often is injured when we need him at the most. And he has huge opportunities to come in and help us out, but he's often finding himself injured and not available to be picked. And I think those two things he needs to improve on this season. He needs to improve on just his overall consistency. I'd rather see more 7 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s than 10 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, and then a 4, you know, the following week. That's what type of player he seems to be right now. And if he's able to improve on the consistency, I think the goals will start coming in, and we'll start to have less of those doubts of him being the striker for this system.
I can definitely see why you picked him for sure, Jacko. And look, you know, he's got a big season ahead of him to prove that last season was just a blip in the radar. And look, I've sort of gone for Bissouma for similar reasons, though, Jack. You know, last season there was a lot of expected of him when we signed this guy. Spurs fans couldn't believe we signed someone like him, but also a lot of fans outside of Tottenham couldn't believe we signed someone like him. And we were all expecting this guy to come in and completely bust that midfield and change it. However, it never happened for various reasons. Injuries, being out for periods of time, through COVID and stuff like that. But then also, you know, the midfield system, it was more Conte. We spoke about it last season, that Conte sort of puts a lot of restrictions on these midfielders. It's about sitting in, protecting that back line. I can understand why, because it was atrocious. But it's not Bissouma's game. Bissouma's one that likes to pick up the ball from deep and go and affect the game, go and play. He's a free bird, and you got to let the guy fly. And for me, I've seen lovely glimpses of him pre-season, Jack. But the biggest thing for me is the mindset that he's in right now. He's confident. You know, he's getting his arms around a lot of the younger players, forming a lot of friendships. He's really enjoying his time. He's the DJ in the dressing room, and then that's also you're seeing them vibes carried out on the pitch. Some of the lovely play that we've seen from him. But not only that, he's also getting forward, getting into the box, and getting on the end of things occasionally as well. And for me, I think he's going to have the season this season that many expected him to have last season. And if we want to stay up in the top half of the Premier League and go for European football, this guy has to have a massive season. When Spurs were at their best under Pochettino, we had midfielders who dominated. We had Wanyama and we had Dembele. We've got Basuma and we've got Madison and whoever else that other guy is in there. But Basuma needs to be the one to grab that midfield and lead it. And I think this is going to be season Jacko.
He needs to be in main character mode, and it looks like he certainly is. Young player of the season, Papa Matasar, an absolute diamond that Paratici has delivered us, alongside another diamond that Paratici has delivered us in Destiny Udogie. I'm be absolutely over the moon if either of them, ended up being the young player of the season. But let you go first, Dave. Papa Matasar, why is it that he would have a better chance, or not even a better chance, just what is it that is giving him, that leg up, for being the young player of the season?
Do you know what it is, Jack? I think the guy's better than Skip. I think he's going to prove that this season. I think with Lo Celso, I'm not convinced that he's going to do it for a whole season. And I do think there is going to be opportunities there for Papa Matasar. And for me, it's just about getting that opportunity. Every opportunity he got underneath Antonio Conte, he absolutely took. And I think with Ange Postecoglou, you will get rewarded if you take these opportunities. Whereas that with Conte, he looked a lot at the age of players a lot of the time. So when our more experienced players came back, like Højbjerg or Bentancur, they were thrusted straight back into the team. Whereas I think Ange sort of operates more off a bit more loyalty. And if Papa Matasar comes in and takes the opportunities, which I think he will, I think once he gets one, he'll get a couple. And once he gets a couple, you won't be able to take him out of the team. This guy has it all. He can pass, he can tackle, he can get around the midfield, he provides a lot of energy. Plus, Postecoglou makes a lot of changes in and around 60 minutes onwards to keep that intensity in the team. So there's going to be a lot more opportunities off the bench for this kid to come in and impress as well. And one thing I've seen from him at pre-season just told me he's top, Jack. And that was the one I think Harry Kane sort of headed the ball. Papa Matasar chested it and volleyed it, but it was the way he leaned back, got the dip, it just went over. But that's something I've seen great players do. Gascoigne, Hoddle, I've seen Harry Kane do it. The great players, I've seen Modric do it. And when you've got quality like that, eventually it's going to come true and shine. You just need the opportunity, and I think Ange is going to give him that. But I also like your boy, Jack. I think he's going to nail down that spot all season long. I don't think the others will get near him.
I think it's a similar argument that there's an opportunity here to sort of take that spot for your own. Like you said, he could take that number 8 spot alongside Madison and Papa Matasar's case. But Destiny, I think, could give us a glimpse of the left back that we've been needing, actually, both last season as well as maybe seasons in the past. And he's going to bring that sort of both ends to it. I think he's going to improve on his defensive side of things, but seeing how big he is, how strong he is, how fast he is, and also the fact that he seems to be a very intelligent player gives me all the hope that, by probably 26, 27, he's going to be a stellar defender. But what we already have from him is that he's brilliant going forward. He seems to adjust well to playing in field. He can tuck in like Emerson can and play in that midfield, but he also does really well in the wide areas, and he's able to take it past his man, put in some delicious crosses, but also pop up in the box and opportunities to score or grab an assist. And so I actually think sort of a season where we'll realize that Destiny Udogie has been a blessing of a signing, because this could have been a position that we could have struggled in this season, because it would have been Ben Davies or Sergi Reguilon. As much as I've defended Sergi Reguilon, there are some concerns with his defensive ability, but also, too, it just doesn't seem to be the guy that convinces most of the fan base. And I think Udogie is going to be the one that convinces the majority of this fan base that we have a left back for the future and for a long time. And I think he's going to prove just to be a blessing in disguise, actually, for us this season. Another diamond delivered by the Don. But let's go into as well top 3 goal scorers, and really similar picks, actually. In fact, we just sort of gone for an inverse of the second and the third. Sonny, of course, we think is going to be the top goal scorer. He's basically taking on the huge absence of Harry Kane. I think he's hungry to do it. And also he's basically trying to also, how would you put it? Like, I'm not even mad at Sonny. I don't feel like I'm putting as much pressure on him after what happened last season. But there's also that in his head too, right? Is after having a disappointing season last season and also the absence of Harry Kane, I think you're just going to get a very motivated player out of him. I think he's going to be very determined. I know he's seen as, a happy, kind of smiley type character, but he's also a very motivated guy at the same time. And that's where I think this season he's got a few different things that are sort of going to be pushing him, to really be performing at his best. And even if he starts off a bit slowly, I have full confidence by the end of the season he's sort of going to be back to close to hope, maybe his best version of himself, because I just think there are a lot of incentives for him this season to kind of step it up and sort of get back to, or kind of just get back to his best. I'm not really putting that much pressure on him after what happened last season. Happens to a lot of big players, happens to, you know, a lot of players who have to change system. But yeah, I think Sonny Dave, he's going to be the number one. But tell me why Madison is going to go ahead of Richarlison, because I think we have a similar answer.
Yeah, look, I just don't think Richarlison's going to get the goals that many people think he will this season. Many people criticise and ridicule the guy last season, and now the one saying, oh, he's going to step up and get you the 15 to 20 goals we need this season. I do not see it happening. I think he's going to struggle just purely down to the composure, but also he's not that link-up player. So I think, you know, if Postecoglou persists with Sonny coming in off the left and Kulu coming in off the right into their preferred feet, Richarlison ain't going to bag you the goals. And I think ultimately he's going to struggle. Whereas if he puts, you know, Sonny on the right, saying Perisic on the left and get them crosses in, that's where I think Richarlison will come into his own. But ultimately, look, I like Richarlison, and I even when we signed him, I said, you know, great backup option to have to Harry Kane, but not the replacement to Harry Kane if he ends up going. And I've just with Madison, Jack, you know, the guy averages about 10 goals a season, and I'm just hoping he can bring that to the Tottenham. I'm hoping he can bring that to the midfield, and you know, we're going to need them from him. And I just think, you know, look, it could really go either way, but I think, you know, it's fair to say I think Son, Maddie, and Richarlison will probably be the 3 top scorers this season for the club.
There you are, everybody. And then last but certainly not least, let's talk about the player of the season. I've gone for Romero here, and that's basically because I think he's going to be answering to a lot of the haters. And I know last season wasn't really his best, and there were some doubts over his loyalty. There were some doubts over whether he is as good as what he's been claimed to be by a lot of us, including Dave and I. But I think he's just going to answer to a lot of those doubters, a lot of those haters, because this system is going to bring out, I think, one of the attributes that has probably gone unnoticed in Romero's game, and that's actually how good he is on the ball. I think in Conte's system, didn't get as many chances to sort of see how good he is kind of building out from the back. I think he makes very composed decisions. He doesn't always just resort to kind of knocking it long. Doesn't take 10 touches as well like Dyer does to sort of make a pass. He's quick. Makes nice sort of intricate passes to break out from the back. But also what I like about Romero is that he's not always just kind of giving it to the midfielder. You see him sometimes actually look past the midfield, and he tries to just zip it right into a striker or zip it right into one of the wingers to actually bypass the midfield to get a move going even quicker. And knowing that this system is just about retaining possession and just never stopping and continually go after the opposition, I think it sort of suits everything about Romero. It means he'll win the ball back quickly for us in case maybe something, you know, were to go wrong with a loose ball or a second ball. But also, too, he's going to be making the passes out of possession that are forwards, not sideways or backwards, like the rest of our defenders have in seasons past. He's going to be exactly, I think, what Ange has wanted. And I know Ange has asked for Van de Ven. He's asking for other kind of center backs. But me personally, I think Romero is going to be our best defender going into this season for Ange.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think Romero has a huge point to prove, Jacko. He sort of spoke about it pre-season, but also, you know, spoke about having opportunities to leave, and he's sort of turned them down, and he's here for the immediate future. And, you know, he's got a massive point to prove. There's people getting on his back, and I think you're going to get the Romero we got before last season, the one that finished out the first season underneath Antonio Conte. However, attacking players just get more attention than defenders. A defender could have a solid 38 game a season, not put 1 foot wrong. But if you've got an attacker scoring goals, he's always going to win out just purely because it's more exciting than the defensive side of the game. Even though I'm like you, I love that defensive side of the game. But the reason why I've gone for Sonny most is, Jack, look, Kane's gone. We need a new hero. We need a new leader and someone that's going to carry this club on its back. Now, ironically, everyone says, you know, once Kane's gone, we're not a one-club team, man. But we will be. Sonny will be the guy that's going to be that guy we rely on. Every club has somebody to rely on. And for me, Sonny's going to... Yeah, Sonny's going to be that guy. You know, many would say that Sonny's been sitting here waiting for that opportunity, waiting for Kane to go so that he can be that guy and he can step up and prove to be that guy. And I think, you know, in large parts, I think Sonny will be. You know, he's proven that he can score big goals for Tottenham before. Hopefully, he can continue to do it, Jack. And, You know, we need him to carry this club on his back, and I think we're going to see a magnificent season from him. Last season, he had a lot of struggles. He had the broken cheekbone. He had the injuries. Of course, he had the big build-up to the season with the pre-season in Korea, which took a lot out of him mentally, drained him a little bit as well, I think.
World Cup, too.
Yeah, the World Cup as well, Jack. And, you know, fair play to the guy. He carried on all season long, took the critics on the chin, and, you know, didn't make any excuses for his performances like other people did. And that's what I respect most about Sonny. And look, even if he doesn't get the captaincy, Jack, for me, I think this is going to be the player that's going to step up and lead the club. You know, even Harry Kane wasn't captain, Hugo Lloris was, but Kane was the guy that we all relied upon. And I think Son definitely has the ability to do it. It's just a question whether he has the character to do it. And I think we might get the answers to them questions this season. And outside of Harry Kane, for me, he's going to be, he has to be our most influential player now that Harry Kane is gone. And it's time to step up, Sonny. Time to prove, you know, that you can do this. And I'm going to back you, kid. You know, I'm going to back you. He scored some important goals for Tottenham before, and hopefully he can do it the same. So he's going to be my player of the season. Despite what Romero does, Jacko, if Sonny scores the goals, he's going to get the votes.
Everybody thinks, too, we're going to score 1,000 goals this season, too, right, under Ange. So if we're going to score as many goals as people think we are, then Sonny absolutely is going to be more in the papers than the back line will be. So, Sonny, you got the approval. You got the backing from the Irish. Big up to Sonny. And also, everybody, big ups to you in the comments. Please hit the like button on the way out. Let us know if there were any howlers, any ones that you just thought were absolute shockers of predictions, or if they're ones that you thought maybe were a bit more bang on about, that you might have changed your mind. Do leave the comments down below. Feel free to grab a membership to support the channel. Feel free to grab the Flat Cap membership to join us in the Fantasy League, because Dave and I already forgot to triple captain our Holland, so you can already surge right ahead of us and go for that trophy, go for that prize. But we will be seeing you. Come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange we trust.
We never stop.